guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom Quigley, bringing the latest tips, tricks and techniques for all your contemporary painting and drawing needs, and welcome back to another video. This video is all about artist research. If you've been worried about how to present your artist research, what about to write inside of it, and also all in all, what is the most essential things that you will need, then this video is going to be for you. Secondly, I'd just like to thank everybody who's recently subscribed to the channel. I really do appreciate it. And all the comments that I get on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, it really spurs me on to carry on. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so, and hit that notification bell so you get notified when I next do an upload. Right, without further ado, let's go on with the video.
Okay, so ready to start, and the first thing that I'm going to do is a 1 centimetre border around the page, just for presentation purposes. Though in this page you could use masking tape because I will be using some acrylic later on. Now here I've just got some sugar paper, and I've chosen a colour which is similar to the artist's piece of work, and I'm just using this for a bit of a background, okay? And the first thing that I'm actually going to do is the title. Now the title of any artist research page should be the artist's name, and it should be clear and in bold lettering. Here for this, I'm going to use a carbon transfer, so I've printed off a number of different fonts of the artist's name, and I felt this one works really well. So if you've never done a carbon transfer before, you just get some of the paper, put pencil or graphite on the back, and then tape it down, and what you're going to do is draw over the letters nice and neatly, making sure you're keeping within the lines. Now you can use a pen or a pencil, it doesn't matter, and then what you're going to be left with is an imprint of the graphite onto the page below, and here you can go back over the top with pen to make it more refined and also stand out a little bit further. Once I've actually done this, I may actually start blocking in some of the letters depending how bold I want the letters to stand out on the page. Now after this, we've got to start thinking about what's going to be on the background. So I printed off some images, which is essential for any artist research page, and make sure you get some that are good quality. But I thought I'd do a bit of collage, and the only way I'm going to do that is just with some really cheap paper. Now I've started to look at one of his pieces of work, which is a cup, and he seems to use like a pink and a green coloured. So what I'm going to do, I'll put them over the top of one another, and I'm actually going to sketch out the cup itself. Now this one's a cylindrical cup, obviously, just bearing in mind if you are doing anything cylindrical, it's just got an ellipse at the top and the bottom, and they're supposed to be about the same. Okay, this is very quick sketching just for the video purposes. I'd like you just to make sure you take your time just so you can get the best possible results. Now just remember, you don't have to put any shading on here because Michael Craig Martin doesn't do that. We're just using it for purely the outline of it. Now once I've sketched out the shape of the mug cup, I then want to cut it out, bearing in mind that the other colour piece of paper underneath is still there. So I'm cutting through both pieces, and just try and take your time just to make sure you do a decent job. Now I do this relatively quickly. I chop off the top there. I don't know if you saw, I actually combined the green layer with the pink layer underneath. And if you saw Michael Craig Martin's work before, you saw it had a green lid with the bottom which was pink. Now by sticking these on here, it looks similar to the artist's work, but there's one thing missing, and that is the black outline. Okay, if you look at Michael Craig Martin's work, he has a very heavy use of black lines around his work, and this just defines it even further. And when you actually see the result of it, I was quite surprised how simple it was in the results I got from it. So good thing to do if you want to have a go at doing that. And there you go, just coming towards the end of it there. It's not exactly the same colours, but I've managed to use a variety of different materials to achieve the same look. Now as I move on from there, I've also looked at Michael Craig Martin's work, and I see that he overlaps a lot of subject matter over the top of another. So I decided to do a pencil sketch of a number of objects. Some of these objects are from Michael Craig Martin's work, but I've decided to create my own composition. So I've collected a number of single objects. So this is actually my own composition, even though I've inspired by Michael Craig Martin himself. Now don't worry about any of the feathery lines when you're sketching this, because you are going to be rubbing them out later on. This is purely just to get the plan down on the page before adding the refinement of pen over the top. So as I carry on sketching on here, I'm doing a key, I've got a paper clip and a light bulb. All of these objects are all different scales. You never see a paper clip the same size as a light bulb, and that's what Michael Craig Martin does. And you can see there, he plays around with scale and overlaps them in certain ways to make interesting shapes between them. Now here I'm starting to refine the shapes using the pen and the fine liner. Again, please take your time. The more refined it is, the better the outlook will look. But once you rub out the pencil, you will get a really quite nice look to it. Okay, so it's worth the wait once you create this task. Now as I continue doing on here, just making sure I've got all the lines completed, I'm then going to rub it out. I need to actually start thinking about what else needs to be on the page, and I'm still in the recording stages. Now, after I've done that, I thought to myself, what did I do previously in the pages? And I did some recording of ideas of some tubes of paint. So I thought to myself, well, I wonder if I could actually recreate the tubes of paint in a Michael Craig Martin style. And that's what I'd like you to do. So you could have a go at choosing your own thing that you've been drawing and maybe make your Michael Craig Martin version. Think about choosing the colours. And a carbon transfer is an easy way of doing that because you're only going to go around the simple lines. You don't need to put any detail in whatsoever, just to meet the main form and shape of the object. So I keep on going around here. This is exactly the same how I did the title before. Now I'm using some colours. I'm using magenta, white, a blue and a yellow. And these colours are acrylic paints. Now, if you look at Michael Craig Martin's work, he tends to use very pastel-like colours, which means we're always going to add white into each colour that we do, and make sure that they are relatively opaque. And I don't want to see too much water within the paint because we're not going to achieve the look that we want. So I've mixed up a purple here, which is going to go around the outside of the objects. Whenever you're using the paintbrush, if you press it down and just look on the left or the right hand side, that's a good indicator of following the long lines. Can you see what I'm doing there? So that makes sure that you can create some really nice neat edges. Now as I continue to do that, I don't mind around the edges being too rough and ready. At the end of the day, it's quite an artistic page and I quite like that look, to be honest. If you did have a masking tape board, you could work right up to the top. I've just been quite loose with mine, to be honest. Now as I mix up a second colour, which is an orangey, again making sure I add some white into there. If you do want to tone down the colour, make sure you understand if you add a complementary colour. So say for example with orange it's a little bit of blue, if it's red it's a bit of green, and if you want the purple it's a little bit of yellow in there. And you can see that on the colour wheel that I've put on the screen. Now as I continue putting some of these block colours in here, the really brilliant thing is that you can paint over paint, and that's what Michael Craig Martin does. So if you mess up, don't worry about it, you can just paint over the top. And there you go, just like I did last time, I'm using a permanent marker or fine liner to go over some of the main lines. And mine's not perfect, but when they see the end result, you actually think it's quite achievable, really. So I quite like that one. Now as I continue doing this on here, I need to start thinking about other aspects of artist research that I really need to put in here. And one of the main things is the images and the writing. So I'm cutting out the images that I've chosen, and remember you're choosing the images, so whichever images you choose, you need to make sure that you're going to talk about them, or you've chosen for a reason, not just for random images that you've chosen. Now I'm sticking them down here, making sure I'm leaving enough room for my writing that's going on the page, so please take your time. And you'll also see I've got a white border around some of the images. This is purely to stand out from the background, and also looks quite attractive when you've got it on there as well. So don't be afraid about overlapping some of your drawing on there. Now this is the writing, and there's a number of questions that you'll need to answer to make sure that you'll fully get the artist research up to scratch. And the first thing is getting some basic information about the artist. And there's a number of places where you can go. Here, Michael Craig Martin's website. You could also maybe go onto the Tate website, where I've printed off some stuff here. And this just got a number of different information in there, talking about who the artist is and what the artist does, and maybe the materials and processes. So it's great to have a bit of a read on there, and there's plenty of information on the internet for not just this artist, but many other artists as well. Now I've underlined some of the key points that I want to go through here. So once I've got the brief information, it's all about describing the artwork literally, talking about the colour, the composition, what the object is, and you'll see me doing this a number of times and realizing, look, they're everyday objects that we see every day. You'll also see that they're using some block colours. You don't see a bucket that colour normally, and so what Michael Craig Martin does is play around with colour, contrasting colours for one another. You'll also see the heavy use of black outline, which we talked about before. So a majority of his objects have these heavy use of black outline, but sometimes he uses some other colours too. And the last thing is about the overlapping and the transparency of objects. So just doing the outline, or maybe collecting a number of objects and collecting them together and putting your own composition. So do you like the look of doing a single object or maybe a number of objects? And also altering scale, which we touched on before. So there's a number of things that you're going to write about, and making sure that you showing your understanding. That's the most important part. Now here is his process. He puts a projector on the image and then goes around with the black tape. Once he's got that on there, that's when you can start applying the colour. And then what he actually does is peel off the tape, revealing the colour underneath. So we found out a little bit more about Michael Craig Martin. So what we need to think about now is, what do we like? So you've got to tell the viewer or the examiner, what do you like? What does it, make you think of? The certain objects that you see, do you recognise them? Or some of them that you don't recognise? That's why I keep on going through these questions here. I'm doing it all in note form. So I'm putting it just on a piece of paper for now. Just breaking it down, making sure that I know what I'm writing about, and kind of understanding how am I going to use the artist in the future. Now, once I've done that, I'm then going to go back to the sketchbook and then start doing my lines. Now, the last thing that I want you to look at here is what the images you have chosen and why. So I spoke about this just earlier. So you need to think about, have I chosen the image because of what's in the image? Have you chosen it because of the colours that the artist used? Or is it the composition? Now, as again, composition is just where things are arranged. So if you like that arrangement process, then you might try that in your work, which is probably quite a difficult thing to do, but it's a good thing to have a go at doing. Now, let's get back to that sketchbook. And as always, I try and do my sketchbooks as neat as possible. So I'm doing 1 centimetre lines all the way across the page here, just lightly, because we are going to be rubbing out these lines. And from left to right, we're going to be writing that information, starting with the basic information on Michael Craig Martin, and then going and answering all those questions in the spaces below. And I try and do it nice and neatly. If you are working on a dark background, you could use a white gel pen. Here it's relatively light, so I've used a black pen in that one. Now, all you can see there also, I've drawn my tubes of paint, so I'm letting the examiner know that this is my own piece of artwork. And then I've also got space here to put what's next, kind of leading myself, really understanding what's going to happen on the next few pages in my sketchbook. So I plan to use Michael Craig Martin's method or style, and maybe use different materials or processes and play around with the objects that I've got to hand or that I want to use. So after that one's completed, my finishing outcome, I just need some key words, to be honest. So word overlapping or black outline, it could be block colours, it could be everyday objects. There's a number of things that you could talk about in your sketchbook and fill in the negative space with those keywords. Again, showing your understanding. And that's it, guys.
Well, that's it, guys, for the latest video on my current series of my surroundings on this one particular artist research. Hopefully you found it interesting. Hopefully you found it informative. As always, that's one of my most key goals, to make sure you understand to create a decent sketchbook and a final piece in the end. Just remember, you do not have to create your sketchbook exactly the same as me. If you have your own ideas, then brilliant, because I want to see that individuality coming through in your sketchbooks and your own style. Remember, you're the artist, you're the one who's doing the sketchbook, so you decide what goes where and what's in that sketchbook. Anyway, as always, guys, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. It's always lovely to see. And secondly, if you could subscribe or share the channel, that'd be most appreciated, so it could spread further and wider to a larger audience, and also have more of an impact on the art community. Anyway, guys, until next time, see you later. Bye.